Hello, welcome back for more Magic Arena. Let's get our grind on. Today we're going to try out a Scarab God deck that I was able to finally create by unlocking exactly one Scarab God. So hopefully we have some fun and play some interesting decks. I've got more creatures in it than I normally would, and we're definitely still missing a lot of cards for this type of deck, so please be patient with it, but we'll see what we can do. Our opponent on the mulligan, looking around. So yeah, we finally cracked our third Mythic Wild card this weekend, and I've been playing Merfolk quite a bit, a lot of games. Happy to change it up and do something different. So went out and got a Scarab God, a card I've never gotten to play at this point, since I don't play Magic Online and since I don't play Paper Magic. Magic Duels never received the Scarab God, so this is my first time hopefully getting a chance to annoy some opponents with its endless Scarab Godness. Alright. Here comes some kind of a green and white thing, and it's a Branch Walks. So that would make Moment of Craving nice. Our opponent puts that right in the graveyard for that sweet eternalized value. They can cast it from the graveyard later, which is kind of the big appeal. And I don't know if we are in a good place for a deck like this, but we're going to give it the good old try. It would be great if I could somehow Scarab God that creature before my opponent beats me to death with it. Branch Walking, doing Anointer Priest things. I may as well scatter this. Anointer Priest also comes right back out of the graveyard, if that's what they choose to do, but otherwise these are going to sit in the hand for a very long time, and we don't really want that. Now, if our opponent does decide to Eternalize, we'll just use some Supreme Will, but let's see what else they have. Alright, Branchwalker comes in. This is probably Priest coming out, which means we'll Supreme Will. Oh, nope, not this time. They want to use that Anointed Procession, so let's say no to that. Although the way they ran it out, either they're on strategy of YOLO or they have another, which is very scary. Still, everything comes with risk. Annoying Procession, if it resolves, and then having internalized creatures in the graveyard is very threatening indeed, especially without access to sideboards and using some fun cards we could have used, like Scarab Feast. And there is... Alright. Anointed Priest coming back, so great. Not another Anointed Procession. We took a risk. It sort of paid off. We didn't get absolutely creamed, and I'm going to hang on to these open spells and this cycling for now. If our opponent brings back the Pouncer, we're going to want this Chupacabra. And I think they'll play around the open mana by bringing back the Pouncer, but we'll see. Opponent touching lands, always fun. Always fun to watch your opponents touch all the cards while you wait. Actually, I find that rather tilting. I know I'm not the only one. Alright, you have that creature. I think I will cycle this desert, even though I do plan to get more land drops. I think I need better action to compete with my opponent's remaining 4-card hand. Alright. And I'm glad we found the untapped land, because it lets us play this Chupacabra and hold up the Essence Scatter. And there's no point into attacking in here. We could just to bluff of some kind, but then if our Chupacabra gets, say, Ixalan's Binding, we give up a free point of damage, and our life is more important than our opponent's. Since we are the control, they are the beatdown. So, green-white tokens, having a think. Trying to figure out where to go from here. The answer, the Adorn Pouncer, which is going to be a lot harder to deal with out of the graveyard than on the battlefield. So Well, I think we'll let the battlefield version resolve. At least make our opponent go through the ropes of getting it into the graveyard. And wow. Well, we're up against a white deck, which I've said before, it's probably not on a YouTube video, but I say it all the time on Twitch, that you don't want to just run your Scarab God into a Cast Out or an Ixalan's Binding. That said, is it the right move? I mean, does it get better for us if we sit and wait? My deck has a Doomfall, but it doesn't have a bunch of negates or anything like that, and we don't have a bunch of way to force our opponent to get rid of those cards. So while it's a very bold play, is it the only play? I think we'll at least wait a turn and try to get our opponent to commit something else. Maybe we get them convinced that they have to cast out or lock down Chupacabras or something. We just get a little patient. I will keep that, as they either have to play around it or we go find something that we want. And no attacks. Perhaps that's a deck building adjustment to make. As much as I don't want to play cards like Duress with all the mono red around, it just seems like it might be required. Alright, let's Essence Scatter that. Also, if we can wait till we're at 9 mana, we're at 6, so 3 more lands, perhaps we can go Scarab God and get a Tendershoot Dryad and take over the game from there. Our opponent not attacking with a Pouncer, so interesting. Also, perhaps a few more lands, we can protect it with a Supreme Will if our opponent keeps missing land drops, although that doesn't appear to be what's happening yet. So I think I will just use this to search and try to find something else. A Doomfall to look at my opponent's hand would be ideal. Final Reward can get rid of the Pouncer so it can't come back, and that is a decent solution card at this stage. But we don't want to play it main phase. I think we just want to threaten and wait and just make our opponent think about playing around all the cards we have. They basically took last turn off. I'm not sure what to think of that. I mean, what could they possibly be scared of casting the cards in their hand, or are they possibly only just not relevant with these? Let's see, I think I need to scatter that. I don't necessarily have to. I could Final Reward and then Dreadlands, but I don't think that's the play. A Baffling End is fine. Taking out the Squire. Our opponent thinking pounce, meow, perhaps. And here it comes. But let's go ahead and fire off a Final Reward. Alright, now we have a Doomfall. That is excellent. So I trade 2 damage for 1. My opponent may just choose not to block. Let's go find out. No blocks. Interesting. Alright, let's see what is in this hand. And there is an Ixalan's Binding and a Regal Caracol. So this also, this is a decent little trick, but I'm not worried about the way that kills my Scarab God, but this Binding does have to go. Now my opponent might resolve this Regal Caracol, but we're going to make them draw an answer to Scarab God, which can quickly take over the game despite the Caracol. It also puts my opponent in a tough spot of whether or not to attack with a Chupacabra, which I can just get back to kill the Caracol and then get back the Caracol. And there is your kitties as the haymakers start exchanging. And here is Scarab God. Yeah! Alright. Get that sweet Scarab God animation. And set a stop on our upkeep. So if we want to get something back on upkeep, we can. May not be the play. We'll find out. I do expect our opponent to use this, but I think Moment of Craving can stop it, as it might be the right play here. Oh no, they're not going for it. Interesting. All right. So, what is the right get back? Tendershoot Dryad seems good, but my opponent, there's even the removal spell. Perhaps that's why. But as long as we have a Moment of Craving, I think I'll actually take my draw though, because if it's a counter spell, we may rather hold that up than have the upkeep effect. And that's about as good as it gets. A Sailor of Means. So because they have this fight mechanic, I think I want to hold on to Moment of Craving in case they decide to use that in response to my use of the Scarab God ability. And we'll see if my opponent can rip off the top and get that Ixalan's Binding or Cast Out to break my heart. And it is a Sacred Cat. Excellent. I feel fortunate. Okay, end turn. Again, we'll set that upkeep stop just in case, but I think what we want is that Tendershoot Dryad. And our opponent did not respond to it. I think I will continue to take my draw step. Okay. Holding up a counterspell would just kind of lock it up. Our opponent's seen enough. And there is in Oketra's name as a player reward. Let's go find another. And Noobgoyf. I like the name. Throwing back to Lurgoyf, Tarmogoyf, probably the most famous Goyf. Many Goyfs, not that many, but you can search them if you want an interesting look at Magic history. I like my hand. We'll see if it's fast enough, but our opponent is playing Dinosaurs, which I think is a matchup we want as the blue-black deck. As long as Carnage Tyrant isn't excessively involved, which at this stage in the development of collections hasn't been the case in my experience so far. Is there the turn 2 Accelerant? No, it's a Branch Walker. Well, with most Dinosaurs coming online on turn 4 or 5, that's probably what we want to scatter, and we can crave something later. So, the big problem, though, would be Thrashing Brontodon. Thrashing Brontodon would make my Searchers kind of sad, but I guess if he's sacrificing that, I'm happy about that. But we could just hold this and play it later. I guess it would be wise to be a little patient with our search for Azcanta. Okay, Commune with Dinosaurs is fine. Nothing I can actually do about it. I believe it's the third one. We are communing very much, looking for dinosaurs. So far just lands, and the land trend continuing here. Perhaps our opponent has all of their dinosaurs in their hand. I'm not worried about a 2-drop, so I'm going to go ahead and kill this on the chance that they play something like Rigging Runner with Raid, something ridiculous of that nature, but I'm not interested in Essence Scattering a 2-drop against dinosaurs at this stage. And that will pass the turn. Alright, instead of playing my tapped land, I'm going to hold up Supreme Will because I'd like to use it as a counter this turn so I can have Essence Scatter up and play Search next turn. And a crucial 4th turn here. I'm guessing we'll see some kind of creature, but perhaps not. Perhaps not. Alright. In that case, I think I'll use Supreme Will to search the deck. It's usually a good idea if your opponent's just playing around counter spells is to fire your Supreme Wills off. And since I see a cancel, I will take a cancel. There might be something like a Sunbird's Invocation, which is why I took it over an Essence Scatter, but I'm going to be happy to shuffle the deck with Evolving Wilds and get that back into the deck. That Essence Scatter needs to come up later. And we'll deploy the search. Our opponent, with some priority, they could be bluffing, but I feel like Lightning Strike might be on the radar. Ah, Shake the Foundations. 1 damage to all creatures and draw a card. So they just played it. All creatures without flying. They just played it to get that card draw. I don't have a lot of Branchwalker Fear, but with my hand, I think I can afford to do that to make this play. If our opponent's going to kind of bait out smaller creatures, I'm going to use what I have, and wow, they have seen enough trying to get on to the next game that they feel they can win quickly. Well, I will take it. I do think that dinos, monsters, whatever red-green deck you're against is where you want to be with the blue-black control deck. Tokens are much harder. Red is much harder. Merfolk is awkward. It's not terrible. Merfolk is hard just because they have so many creatures, so it depends how many sweepers your blue-black may have. I only have 1. Not great for that matchup. I guess I'm trusting our draw step and our Seekers Squire to get us there on land, but since we do have bodies and removal, I think it's a good keep. And our opponent, possibly vampires. Still no red decks today, which has been such a big part of the meta. 25% of the meta on my last entry into my spreadsheet, but not today. Today they've been in hiding, so let's get the Squire onto the battlefield. Hopefully it levels up. I will... Am I going to have time for you against vampires? I think it's more important that I just hit my land drops here. The vampire deck is very aggressive. It'll punish me a lot if I spend a turn doing nothing but playing a Search for Azcanta. At the same time, this is sort of a land. It becomes more land-like later. But it can be bindinged and cast out, which makes it much worse than land. So I'm going to bin it, and it breaks my heart a little bit to do so. One of my favorite cards. So you can tell me in the comments if you want to. Would you bin a Search for Azcanta in that spot? Did I make the right play or the wrong play? The Radiant Destiny begins. Opponent probably will offer this Martyr of Dusk trade, which we don't wish to take. And we drew another land. We could save a cancel for something like a Call to the Feast, but I think I just want to get my Sailor on. As Call to the Feast isn't the worst thing when you have a 2/3 and a 1/4 when you have bodies available. There's other things I might be more worried about, but I have removal for them. And if my opponent plays another Destiny, that's annoying, but then we can exile this Martyr. Well, once we get to 5, unfortunately. There is the Call to the Feast. Now we just have to keep other lords from happening. Because our blockers are okay. We may need to take out that Shafet Dunes. What happens if he cracks that next turn? I guess I Reaver Ambush this, and I take 6. That's not too bad. So we'll play this now, so that we have the option. If our opponent doesn't do anything worthwhile, or if it fits in differently with our mana, we can take out the Dunes. City's Blessing online. Are you coming at me? Pride of the Conquerors is a possibility. Cancel is available. I don't think this is a very effective attack without some trick. Moment of Craving? I don't like to, but I do think it's wise to fight over that in this situation. As this blocker eating tokens is a good way that I can stabilize the board. And my opponent with no other plays. That's promising. So take out Dunes now is probably a good idea since it also keeps cancel open. And then we can pass the turn. I am starting to wish I had a search for Azcanta, to be perfectly honest. But that's the way it goes. I didn't think we'd be in as good a position to stall this out as we are right now. Ifnir Deadlands. Well, we've got 1/2, but that could be an annoying one. I want that to resolve so I could ambush it in combat. No, I want ambush to hit the Martyr of Dusk most likely because the exile effects is useful. But there's probably going to be other things I'd rather Essence Scatter because their ETB triggers are brutal, such as a champion. So we're going to let that happen and see if our opponent wants to turn him sideways yet again. So we will block. They may still have a Pride of the Conquerors. Maybe that Moment of Craving wasn't the master plan. That would be a real blowout. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. And it looks like we've avoided that. Horrible, horrible tragedy should have occurred. All right. We continue to whittle them down. We have some instant speed removal, and they have 1 card left. I think I'm just supposed to wait. Don't think there's any good plays to make here. I shouldn't be in a rush to get attacking. Another Dunes. Well, well, well. We can respond to the Dunes with some instant speed activity. Our opponent looking at our Seekers Squire, who's, by the way, you have done work today, Seekers Squire. You are a very good Squire. Our tag team action here, representing against the token deck. This is where it's better to have a few bodies in your deck than be Drago, so that you can put something up against something like a token deck that just creates these tiny incremental creatures, and it gets you some value over time. So they shrink our Squire. Here comes something. Alright, I think I'll take advantage of the opportunity to just exile this with Final Reward. And block here. I don't think they're going to do any other crucial things with their turn, so holding up Essence Scatter isn't that big of a deal. And no attacks. We still have the Deadlands, but I don't want to sack that land. We have the Moment. I don't know if I want to use it here. As long as we're brick-walled, our opponent can gain life, but we can come back from that. They draw another land. That's fortunate. For us, at least. They're having a bit of a flood, but that does seem to happen to me when I play against control. So they're going to gain some life, but we'll solve this problem in a while. I don't think a few life is too much to sweat. I'd rather draw cards. Ah, there is a creature, and I think that is a good Chupacabra target. Doesn't have an ETB, so saving the Essence Scatter is wise. Too big for Moment of Craving. So we'll resolve your Twilight Prophet. And on end step, let's hit that high row. Take the high road, everybody. More land. Well, that was bound to happen. We play a lot of them, and we hadn't drawn too many. Right, Chupa-Chup. Take down that Twilight Prophet. And keep gumming up that board. Just keep making a mess like nobody's business. Opponent having a look at a card. What could it be? Not quite sure. Gideon of the Trials is a card. Wow. What does that do? We're going to have to find an answer. And it may be hard to find. I suppose another Moment of Craving or another final reward would do it, but I think we only play the one final reward. We can attack it, which does kind of limit how good the 4/4 side can be. So this might be a good time to hit this vampire with a Moment of Craving now, so that we can start picking at Gideon, and then if Gideon's on 3, going 0 and attacking me doesn't really gain anything. Gideon and vampires. First I've seen of that. So before I shuffle my deck, I'm just seeing if we know anything about the bottom of our deck to see if I'm actually thinning the deck or not. Doesn't appear that we know anything about that, but good to know. You're not actually thinning your deck at all if you know you have lands on the bottom and you activate an Evolving Wilds. In fact, you can be unthinning your deck if you have, say, 2 or 3 lands that you scry to the bottom on the bottom and you shuffle that with Evolving Wilds. That has an ETB, and I suppose I want to keep getting at Gideon, so this may be really bold, but I'm going to shut it down. Obviously, countering something like a champion might be a higher win play. Maybe that's very bold. We'll see if I get punished. And yep, for Gideon to live, it needs to keep plussing here instead of attacking.
I don't think so.
So it does, and here comes the turn again, falling on the rain like a memory. All right. Hope you're ready for a grinder. This one could take a while. Although I've seen enough lands now, and I would like for that to stop, please. How about a pull from tomorrow? How about Scarab God? Give me the finishers. Another Zealot. Well, I suppose that's punishment for countering the first Zealot, although I guess 2 of those would come down last turn. Maybe Golden Demise fixes that. Alright. And what next? Legion Lieutenant, taking them out of Golden Demise range. We have the Deadlands. It can get it back, but I do feel punished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I gotta see if or when the Say's Blessing will be had or lost. But it appears that we're plenty of the way there, even if I sacrifice this Deadlands. So Gideon, what's the score? Now Gideon wants to get frisky. Well, Seekers Squire, you lived your life for this moment to take this final one for the team. And it is at 3 loyalty, so if I get through these, I can get Gideon off the board. But then we're basically at even, except I have some little dorks on the battlefield at the end. All right. Wow. Do I have enough black mana? Yes, I do. So we'll go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We definitely have City's Blessing. So we'll Golden Demise. We'll sacrifice the desert to put -1/-1 counters there. That will kill both of them because the Lieutenant was keeping the Zealot alive, and this will let us attack Gideon for the lethals. That said, it's time to stop with the land draws now. Our opponent's a few good draws from being back in the game, and if the tilt factor doesn't make them concede over losing a Planeswalker, something I have seen before, then they have just as good a chance as we do. Staring at that drawn card, how good is it? They've drawn very well the last few turns. They drew Gideon into Zealot, and, well, there was a Prophet. Excellence Binding. Well, I'm actually very happy to see that coming down. It makes top decking Chupas bad. But it does open up room for Scarab God, and it does open up room for Search for Azcanta. Seeker of Insight. Well, that's a good reason to hold the last land, and we'll get you on the battlefield. If I draw a non-creature spell, I get to loot. Let's hope that happens. Also, the little 1/3 body gets past Magma Spray, Fanatical Firebrand, things of that nature. Whole bunch of nice butts on this team. Sailor of Means and Seeker of Insight. Just a one of right now. And another Destiny. Well, we're going to sit for a second as if we're thinking about this. But we're going to let it resolve because we don't have a choice. And I'm glad our Demise is spent because his creatures just outgrew it. But we need to draw some counters. Sailor of Means, huh? Well, let's attack. And let's play our Sailor of Means. Drawing all of the Dirtle creatures, and let's hope our opponent isn't just like, rip, call the feast. They haven't had a good stretch. They flooded early. We're flooding a little later. But it's about even as far as that goes. They've had a pretty good stretch of draws since then. Card off the top is a Thinker. A Head Scratcher is another removal spell. Is it possibly a Settle the Wreckage? Is it playing around something? Let's see what happens if I send in my sailors. I'm pretty concerned, to be honest, that it is an Ixalan's Binding or a Cast Out, which hitting search for Azcanta would be very heartbreaking as we just drew it. That hesitation does make me wonder if it's Settle the Wreckage. Let's go for this. We're leaving this up because we can loot since we play the search. And we are thinking, oh, touching the card in hand. Uh-oh, is it the Cast Out? If I hit end turn there and my opponent hits end turn, I don't get to use the Seeker at all. So while I'd like to use it in response to something like a Cast Out, I don't think that's a good option. And here it comes. Yes, they drew it. So they continue to break my heart with their rips. Continuing to break my heart. But hopefully that opens up a lane for Scarab God to get into. And rips the Call of the Feast. Ugh. What a back and forth we're having, except it seems like I am a much worse position. Probably use those dunes while you can, right? Let's see. I would recommend using the Chefette Dunes. Yep, there it is. Now I could jump here or I could go to 1. I think going to 1 is actually better because next turn all I have to do is draw a removal spell or a creature to still kind of be in the game. But we'll see. It's a weird spot to be in. I definitely don't want to give up my Seeker if I don't have to. There is a moment. So we're having a moment. All right. I'll get me another draw. There's a land. But what was the other draw? Alright, nothing he wants to play pre-combat, so not a Lord. Maybe some kind of dork, but I think he would have played some kind of dork. Maybe a Moment of Craving, that would be very unfortunate. Alright, so we block like this. Before damage, we will shrink this token. Okay, held him off for now. Our opponent at 40-5. This is going to take a heck of a comeback, but maybe Scarab God is up to the task. The play is another Call to Feast. Let's please loot into a counter. That is not going to do it. Resolve. Ugh. Brutal. All right. Well, we know what we have to do. We have to play this for 0. And we have to take one of these fine tokens from our opponent. And I feel like looting is a necessity. I guess we go up to 4 thanks to this token. So even we can take one of these hits. So, yep, we got to loot. And where were you? You are late. You are very late. Actually, it wouldn't have mattered since, well, for a while. So if it's late, it's extremely late. And please be something I can hit this with. Oh, Deadlands. Well, that is a good game, I believe. All he has to do is target this vampire. All he has to do is target this vampire. But let's see if he does it. You have to actually make the play, right? It's a good idea to force the opponents to do the thing. By the way, the deserts they've drawn have been very useful. Good job having 2 Deadlands, which I had 2, and 2 Dunes, which everybody gets. So make sure you're playing those in this type of deck.
I have let all of you down.
Alright, give him a good game, and no blockers. And that'll do it, but that was a very back and forth game. Perhaps if I had kept search for Azcanta very early on, life could have been different. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.